The Black Madonna, or Black Virgin, refers to artistic depictions of the Virgin Mary and the infant Jesus, with dark skin, found in various Catholic and Orthodox traditions across Western Christendom. These images, often venerated icons of Byzantine influence or style, date back to the 13th and 14th centuries in Italy, with older examples from regions like the Middle East, Caucasus, Egypt, and Ethiopia. Typically crafted from wood and occasionally stone, these statues are usually painted and can be up to 75 centimeters tall. They are generally categorized into two types: freestanding figures or those seated on thrones. Europe alone has documented 400 to 500 Black Madonnas, with southern France hosting at least 180. Many of these revered figures, some linked to miracles and drawing large numbers of pilgrims, are housed in churches or shrines, though replicas can also be found in museums. The veneration of the Black Madonna, represented in statues and paintings, is a practice found across various countries, including Spain, France, Italy, Switzerland, and Russia, making these sites among the most visited places dedicated to the Virgin Mary. While Europe, especially the Mediterranean region, hosts a significant number of these icons, the Americas also have their venerated figures, such as Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico, another pivotal religious symbol. Despite the widespread reverence for the Black Madonna, there exists considerable misunderstanding and underappreciation of her significance within mainstream Christianity, often clouded by racism and ignorance. For instance, a myth surrounding the Black Madonna in France's Chartres Cathedral suggests her dark skin is the result of centuries of candle soot accumulation, a theory that persists despite evidence to the contrary. The Chartres Cathedral was once home to two significant Black Madonnas: Notre Dame de Pilar, a dark walnut statue created in 1508 as a replica of a 13th century silver Madonna, prominently positioned on a tall pillar amidst candles, and Notre Dame de Sauterre, a recreation of an original lost during the French Revolution. In 2014, restoration efforts in the cathedral led to the repainting of Notre Dame de Pilar in a style reminiscent of the 19th century, which resulted in the statue losing its Black Madonna designation. This decision to alter the statue's appearance drew significant criticism for erasing historical significance. We in the Black community fully understand the reason why. What is known as fact does not require an explanation. Similarly, instances of icons being deliberately lightened have been documented, such as in Rome's Santa Maria del Popolo Church, where the Black Madonna has been altered to appear white in certain representations. In southern Spain, an attempt to clothe the Virgin of Regla led to the separation and alteration of the original dark-skinned Jesus figure, reflecting a pattern of cultural alteration or whitewashing. In her book, The Black Madonna in Latin America and Europe, Malgorzata Oleskiewicz Peralba traces the worship of the Black Madonna back to ancient times, suggesting a deep-rooted historical reverence. According to her research, in places like Russia and Poland, the Virgin Mary is often referred to as the Mother of God, a title that echoes her ancient designation as the Mother Goddess, highlighting a long-standing and profound connection to the divine feminine. What is the link between this Christian icon and Kemet, or what Western scholars call Egypt? We will examine the historical records later in this video. Get ready for some real, eye-opening historical facts. Throughout history, the Mother Goddess has been a central figure in various cultures, embodying the essence of creation and the very foundation of reality. She's often depicted as the originator of all life, associated with the darkness of the cosmos and the fertile, nourishing earth. This deity has been known by many names, including Ceres in Rome, Cybele in Anatolia and Rome, Artemis in ancient Greece, Kali in India, and Isis in ancient Egypt. More on Isis soon. These goddesses, often portrayed as regal figures seated on thrones with a divine child, symbolize fertility and the earth's nurturing aspects. The Black Madonna, similar to these ancient goddesses, taps into a deep, ancient memory of humanity's African origins, representing the archetypal Earth Mother. This connection imbues Blackness with profound meanings of love, nurturing, protection, wisdom, and justice. It is perhaps this shared cultural memory that elevates dark-skinned representations of the divine feminine to among the most venerated in religious traditions, with the darker icons often attracting more devotees and attributed miracles. In some respects, this modern-day devotion to the Black Madonna could be seen as a continuation of ancient worship within Catholicism. This devotion can be viewed as a sustained reverence for the divine feminine. At a shrine in Eureka, Missouri, dedicated to the Black Madonna of Częstochowa, there's a replica that looks noticeably lighter-skinned. This trend of altering traditional religious icons to fit modern sensibilities isn't an isolated occurrence. This pattern of commodification also reflects how Christianity integrated the figure of the Mother Goddess into the Virgin Mary, adapting pagan symbols to fit its narrative. This may come as a shock to many, but it is important to know the true history of the Black Madonna. Early Christians often transformed pagan sites and symbols to align with their beliefs, building churches on ancient temples and reinterpreting relics to fit Christian narratives. An example of this is found in Sainte-Marie-de-la-Mer, a southern French village where the Romani community venerates Sara la Kali, their patron saint, who is also considered an unofficial Black Madonna. The church housing her statue stands on a site once dedicated to a pagan temple, with the crypt designed to symbolize the mother goddess, resembling the earth's womb. Sara la Kali, blending attributes of the Virgin Mary and the Hindu goddess Kali, epitomizes the fusion of different religious traditions. This practice exposes the idea of syncretic worship, where new forms of devotion emerge from the blending of diverse traditions, in this case, connecting European and Indian spiritual heritage. What is the cult of Isis, and how is this linked to the Black Madonna? The story of Horus, the son of Osiris, holds a unique place in ancient mythology as the first narrative of a divine child born miraculously to a virgin mother, Isis. This tale predates and potentially influenced later religious narratives, including those in Christianity. Historian Sarwat Anis al-Asyuti, in his research, highlights a tumultuous period in Egyptian history around the 7th century BC, marked by Assyrian invasions and fierce Egyptian resistance. It was a time of great suffering and upheaval, leading to the eventual rise of Psammetichus I, who expelled the Assyrians and initiated a new dynasty focused on peace and unity. This era, known as the Late Period in Egyptian history, was characterized by foreign invasions and the decline of pharaonic civilization. However, it also saw the spread of the worship of Isis, authentic African name, Isata, as a symbol of peace, love, and humanism. The cult of Isis became a beacon of hope during times of hardship, promoting values of brotherhood and justice against the backdrop of increasing social inequality and injustice. In this image, Isata, wife of Osiris and mother of Horus, whose cult became the dominant cult in the Nile Valley in the late period and in the Near Eastern and Greco-Roman world. The ancient Egyptians, known for their advanced civilization, played a pivotal role in spreading the concept of humanism across the world. Their civilization, long before the times of decline during the late period, was instrumental in imparting knowledge and maintaining order, symbolized by the principle of Ma'at, to combat barbarism. As their society faced challenges from external invasions and internal turmoil, the Egyptians of this era, drawing on their rich legacy of fostering civilization, aimed to resurrect these ideals of peace, justice, and order. They turned to the cult of Isis, a practice deeply rooted in the values of Ma'at, justice, equality, and the liberation of the oppressed. Principles that resonated with the teachings of Christianity later on. The rituals and beliefs in the cult of Isis, including baptism, communal meals, similar to the Christian communion, and public confessions, bear striking similarities to Christian practices. These rituals symbolized regeneration, purification, and a commitment to a new faith, reflecting a continuity of spiritual and moral values from the ancient to the modern world. The god Osiris, central to the Isis cult, embodies the cycle of death and resurrection, a theme that would later become foundational in Christian theology. This connection between ancient Egyptian practices and Christianity suggests a deep and enduring influence of Egyptian spiritual and moral values on subsequent religious traditions. The Egyptians of the late period, identified as Copts, were descendants of these ancient practitioners and have continued to play a vital role in Egypt's religious and cultural landscape to this day. Through the cult of Isis, they sought to spread a message of hope, renewal, and universal brotherhood, aiming to heal a world torn by violence and injustice. The cult of Isis was spread by the Africans of the late period, gaining popularity up until the emergence of Christianity in the 4th century. This cult, which honored Isis as a multifaceted deity representing nature, motherhood, and the supernatural, found its way across the globe, notably influencing European spirituality. Apuleius, an early author, captures the essence of Isis in his work, The Golden Ass, where Isis declares herself as a universal deity, known by various names and revered in different forms across the world. From the goddess of Pessinonte to Minerva, Venus, and beyond, Isis embodies the diversity of divine worship. Remarkably, in places far from the Nile Valley, the names of Isis and Osiris morphed to align with local languages and cultures, illustrating the widespread adaptation and integration of their worship. Osiris, for instance, was known as Adonis, Dionysus, Mithras, among others, in different regions. A fresco from Herculaneum, dating between the 1st and 3rd centuries, housed in the Archaeological Museum of Naples, Italy, visually captures this cultural exchange. It depicts Egyptian priests, identified with the cult of Isis, leading a ceremony and sharing their religious practices with Europeans during the Roman era, symbolizing the cult's far-reaching influence and the interconnectedness of ancient civilizations. The journey of the Isis cult from Egypt to Europe is an intriguing path of cultural and religious exchange, passing through the ancient so-called Near East, regions like Palestine and Syria, before reaching European lands. These regions, rich in history, served as crucial waypoints for the spread of various beliefs. Historically, the area known today as Palestine, formerly Canaan, was deeply influenced by the civilizations of the Nile Valley. The Canaanites, who were among the early inhabitants of this land, had long been exposed to the traditions and religious practices stemming from Egypt. This historical connection suggests that the cult of Isis and other Egyptian religious practices found fertile ground in Canaan before continuing their spread to Europe. An interesting biblical reference supports the intersection of these cultural exchanges. The Bible recounts an episode where Melchizedek, a Canaanite king and priest, offers bread and wine to Abraham. This gesture, recorded in Genesis, mirrors the Osiris-related rites of bread and wine, highlighting the deep-rooted presence of Nile Valley cults in Canaanite rituals and further illustrating the complex web of religious and cultural interactions across these ancient regions. Archaeological evidence shows that the worship of Isis and Osiris was deeply rooted in the region, seen through local adaptations like the cults of Adonis, mirroring Osiris, and Astarte, akin to Isis. This revival of Isis worship in late antiquity was already familiar to the area, even as Hebrew communities established their social and political frameworks, like Judah and Israel. During late antiquity, as emissaries and priests from Egypt traveled to promote the peace-bringing Isis cult, they introduced these practices in Palestine, reaching areas with Hebrew and Jewish communities such as Judea and Jerusalem. In the fascinating narrative of ancient religious traditions spreading across regions, a key figure emerges within the context of Egyptian influence on Jewish practices. His name was Isa, an African priest associated with the Isis cult during the final days of pharaonic civilization in Palestine. The Coptic traditions, predating the Christian era by centuries, mention Isa as a significant figure, highlighting the deep historical roots of these names and practices. Sarwat Anis al-Asyuti, a Coptic scholar, delves into this history in his comprehensive study, revealing that Isa is a name of pharaonic origin, traditionally linked to Osiris, and has been used by Egyptians since ancient times. This emphasizes that Isa was Egyptian, and intriguingly, the name Maria, typically referred to as Mary, also traces back to Egyptian origins, signifying love in the Pharaonic language. These names, including variations like Isa, Isa, Mari, and Mariama, are still prevalent across Africa today, even identifying entire ethnic groups. This enduring legacy, preserved within the Quranic tradition, showcases the remarkable continuity of Isa's name through the ages, offering insights into the roots of these influential figures in both Christianity and Islam. A fresco housed in the Coptic Museum in Cairo, dating back to the 4th century BC, specifically around 310 BC, offers tangible evidence of the historical presence of Isa and his companions, centuries before what is known as the Christian era. This artwork stands as a clear testament to the existence of Coptic traditions surrounding Isa in Egypt, well over 4 centuries before the traditionally recognized time of Jesus Christ's birth. It suggests that the stories of Isa and his group were part of the cultural and spiritual landscape of the region long before the onset of the Christian era. Who were the earliest followers of Isa? Originating from Egypt, Isa's initial and later followers were Egyptians, leading to the Copts being regarded as the earliest Christians. However, labeling them as Christians in the context of modern Christianity isn't accurate, since they didn't identify themselves as such in their records. Given that their traditions predate Jesus and Christianity by centuries, these early Copts were essentially spreaders of the Isis cult, not Christians in the conventional sense. When Isa and his followers brought their teachings to Palestine and into Jewish communities, creating their own communities, they clashed with Jewish authorities. Isa was persecuted and met a tragic end, and his followers faced similar fates in subsequent years. The Ankh, or the cross of life from the Pharaonic era, appearing in Coptic texts, signifies the enduring symbol of life for Isa's followers, who were mistakenly identified as the first Christians and suffered persecution and martyrdom. This recontextualizes the understanding of early Christian persecution, highlighting a deeper historical lineage connected to ancient Egyptian religious practices. It appears that the ancient Pharaonic traditions, especially the mystery cults like that of Isis and the teachings of Isa, heavily influenced Saul of Tarsus, later known as Paul, and those responsible for shaping the narrative of Jesus, Yehoshua, in the Gospels and early Christian doctrines. This connection is highlighted by similarities between Isa and the biblical Jesus, both depicted as miraculous figures with followers who preached peace and faced persecution. Interestingly, the Bible itself, Matthew chapter 2, verse 13 to 15, portrays Jesus as seeking refuge in Egypt during his childhood to escape persecution, suggesting an acknowledgement of Egyptian influence that couldn't be completely obscured by the writers of the gospel. Even today, significant archaeological discoveries related to Christianity continue to be made in Egypt. Unlike Isa, the Egyptian initiate who spread the cult of Isis, Jesus Christ is depicted in the Christian tradition as a Jewish Messiah and Savior of all humanity, with a significant focus on the concept of resurrection. Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 emphasizes the importance of the resurrection, suggesting that without it, the faith in Christ and his teachings would be pointless. Paul's preaching of a Jewish Christ, particularly emphasizing his resurrection as the cornerstone of salvation, raises questions about his motivations. Paul's approach could be seen as a strategic move to blend Judaism with elements of the then popular Isis cult, thereby overshadowing it and establishing the dominance of his new religious framework within the context of Roman rule, which the Bible often portrays negatively. During Paul's era and beyond, in what is known as the Roman period, regions including Palestine, Egypt, North Africa, and parts of Europe were under Roman control. The humanist cult of Isis, led by Egyptian priests, was perceived as a challenge to Roman authority. The cult of Isis gained popularity for its philanthropy, advocating for peace, love, and justice, despite facing persecution. Its growing influence became a significant concern for Roman rulers, necessitating the establishment of a new state religion to maintain spiritual dominion over their subjects. These efforts were personified by the followers of Isa from Egypt, also known as the Copts, who were instrumental in spreading the Isis cult globally. When Christianity was officially recognized as the state religion of the Roman Empire in the 4th century, under Emperor Constantine, The early practices and beliefs of Isa's followers were condemned as heretical and suppressed at ecclesiastical councils. Roman emperors mandated the closure or demolition of temples linked to pharaonic traditions, including those dedicated to Isis and Osiris, replacing them with Christian churches. This campaign culminated with the closure of the last Isis temple by Emperor Justinian in the 6th century CE. The original communities that followed Isa, having faced persecution even before Christianity's formal establishment, were compelled to integrate their beliefs with Christianity to survive, under the threat of erasure. Their modern descendants are known as Orthodox Christians, residing in regions like Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, the Near East, and even as far as Russia. The term Orthodox implies holding the correct belief, signifying that despite historical challenges, these communities strive to preserve the teachings and traditions of their earliest predecessors, the followers of Isa. In comparative research on primitive Christianity and first Islam, Sarwat Anis al-Asyuti notes that the widespread influence of the Isis cult laid the groundwork for the spread of Christianity globally. He points out that the Isis cult established its presence centuries before Christianity took root in the same areas. As a result, with the emergence of Christianity, the Isis cult, known for its emphasis on love, peace, and charity, was gradually sidelined and eventually faded away. The transition from the cult of Isis to Christian worship illustrates not a direct lineage from Judaism, but an adaptation of older, widespread religious practices centered on humanism and maternal figures. This evolution also sheds light on the contrasting depictions of divinity in the Bible. From Yahweh, a warrior deity of the Jewish faith, to the Christian portrayal of a God characterized by universal love, peace, and compassion, reminiscent of a mother's love for her children. This divergence highlights the complex interplay of different religious influences within Christianity. So whether they are aware of it or not, the devotion of Catholics to the Black Madonna, also known as Cult of the Queen of Heaven or the Virgin Mary, taps into a profound form of worship that links them to humanity's earliest spiritual endeavors and even to the cosmic origins of the universe. Until the lions have their own historians, the tales of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.